So, good day to all of you. Today we are going to discuss. We're going to discuss a very specific part of virtual events, uh, which is essentially the roundtables that I feel that as a marketer, I feel that really makes virtual events because without roundtables, virtual events are webinars. They are glorified webinars. So I think that this introduction of roundtables is what suddenly made virtual events okay. This is bigger than just having a webinar. So we thought, let's talk about that. Let's talk about roundtables, and to do that, we have Sid, our CEO, whose concept where this E2M virtual E2M on air is, and we have Dipesh, the guy who was in charge of making the concept a reality, and the guy who I think has about 8 hours of sleep in the last 30 days. So he's looking remarkably good for somebody who's lost the concept of sleep. But we have these two guys to talk about virtual events and roundtables and why they're so important, and also how you can use roundtables in your event to really make the most of it because it's a new technology, it's something new. So I mean, we all need a little bit of exploration. So consider this webinar your exploration. And with that, Sid, over to you. Sid, you are muted.
Yeah, that's the I think the most common problem. So thanks, Anirban. Thanks for kicking this off, teeing this off, and welcome. We have a full house today, so that's great. And this is a very short. I mean, this one is a short session. It's about 30 minutes, and we'll essentially talk about different use cases on how roundtables or breakout sessions are becoming the heart of virtual events. I mean, in all transparency, when we launched it, we never realized that this would be the most popular module. I mean, of course, you have sessions and you have the expo and you have so many other things, but we were absolutely blown away with the fact that the number of hours people were spending and the different use cases. I mean, I'm sure there are use cases we haven't thought about, but yeah, so we'll take you one by one. Approximately, we'll spend about 2 minutes per slide so that we can finish in 30 minutes. We'll make it open for questions, and then all of us will wait in a round table and then hang out, and we welcome all attendees to join us after this session. So, okay, Niban, so what do we have first? Yeah, so this.
Yeah, I mean, just basically, these are just some. When you say roundtable, this is what you think of. Why?
Yeah, this. I mean, yeah, I think this is a great slide. I think it's you can see why it's important that even people like Facebook, for example, if you see other than the reels in Instagram, the most important release for them has been Reels on Facebook during the COVID period. So it sort of gives you an idea why this concept is so important. And I think this is a sort of mashup of things that the use cases for the roundtables. So we talk about serendipity, surprise, catch up, meeting experts. I think this is a beautiful slide. I don't know, Dipesh, do you have any additional thoughts on this? Would you like to add some other keywords to this?
Absolutely. I must agree that there is always a sense of surprise when it comes to roundtables, and that's what we've seen with a lot of events ever since we have this feature. So absolutely yes.
Okay, just before we move on to the next slide, Yvonne in the chat said that they can't get into the presentation. So, Yvonne, can you not see the presentation, or can you just type it out as to whether you can't see the presentation or you want to enlarge it? Because if anybody wants to enlarge the presentation, take up the majority of the screen, just click on the screen with the presentation in it. So that will enlarge it. While I think Yvonne type out her response, so we can move on to the slide. Siddharth, you're muted.
Yeah, I was just saying that let's mute. So anyway, so that's great. Yeah. So I think moving on from that, and Dipesh, if you could mute Anirban and Dipesh, that'd be great. Um, so I think moving on from this, one-to-one group breakout session. Some technical points here that often we are asked how many people can join. There's a soft limit of 16 people or 16 views. So even if you have a screen share, you go up to 16. And attendees usually can be pre-assigned or they choose an open roundtable. So today you will see that you can join open roundtables after this session. So these are typical formats, and it's almost simplistic the way probably Twitter is simplistic. And when we discuss the use cases, you will see how beautiful this simple concept can be. So with that, Anirban, if we can go off to the first use case, probably the next one, yeah. So this has been as a customer or as a user, I think the first time I started using roundtables, what was fantastic was how, because when we get in a video conference, usually it's people that's the default assumption that when you call using FaceTime, when you call when you're getting into a video conference in your office, you kind of know whom you're going to talk. But the roundtables bring this sense of serendipity where you're going to make a new connection, and it's not a chat box, but it's through video. And that adds a different level of element. I mean, that adds a level of discovery which is almost similar to when you go up and when you meet people in a real event. And I think this fact is this is the reason why you get, even Facebook, for example, is finding that the rooms feature is probably the most popular. I mean, everyone can try. You go to Facebook, and of course that's a different kind of a situation. That's not an enterprise event. But if you create a room, you will see that people you don't know are joining your room, or people you've not spoken to for years are joining your room, and suddenly you have a great conversation. So that's sort of, nowadays I think you have to discover people even within your existing group. So this is probably one of the most fantastic elements I have seen of discovering people. And the stats are showing that over 72% of the attendees, they rate discovery and networking as key to event success. Like if you, for example, gave them a ticket to the most popular event and said that all you need to do is sit and listen, and you can meet exhibitors, but no, you cannot interact with any attendees, over 2/3 won't find the event useful. So that's one great point. Dipesh, any thoughts?
No, absolutely. So, as you said, that this is one of the most popular ones, the use cases that we have seen. We have also seen roundtables being used for the after hours, for finding new people to network with people whom you don't know otherwise. So yes, serendipity is one of the key core use cases for roundtable that we have seen.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, one of the advantages of roundtable is that it simulates the experience of just taking a plate of tea and biscuits and mingling. I mean, you don't know what happens when you mingle. Let's move on to the next point.
And yes, so yeah, this was really interesting, Anirban. This is something I think we were, one of our earlier prospects way before, and they came up with these use cases where you had very famous celebrities, right from Kim Kardashian, for example, hosting a roundtable to give beauty tips, to sponsors, to event planners selling roundtables to sponsors. And so we were never aware of these kind of use cases. I mean, our initial concept was, okay, attendees would talk to attendees, but the ability to sell and monetize, sponsor tables. And, you must have heard about the classic, lunch with Warren Buffett that costs you $300,000 or $1 million. Or I don't know what the current rate is or current pricing is. But you could potentially scale this concept, right? You could have a lot more celebrities for a lot less money, selling those roundtables, monetizing those opportunities, and we already see that happening. BNI, we saw that, right? BNI they sold all the roundtables. In fact, only on the last day did they open up for private. So for them, it was, they had a better yield from the roundtables than the exhibit floor. So this is the classic lunch with Warren Buffett kind of a use case, and absolutely amazing how this has been used for that. And just if somebody's wondering, this gentleman that you see is actually is a very popular Asian actor. He was just on the last event, but we've got celebrities joining our system from all over the world. Many of these are private events, so we are not allowed to use their screenshots. But yeah, it's really successful.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, being a marketing guy myself, I think this is kind of very similar to, you'll see a lot of contests where the prize is lunch with so-and-so person or so-and-so celebrity, and this brings that whole aspect to an event. And going to the next slide, this is less celebrity and more let's pick their brains. So Siddharth.
Yeah, I mean, this is your genius bar, right? This is your genius bar. I mean, I know if you're a Big Bang Theory watcher, you probably hate the genius bar in the Apple, and you probably pick on them. But every company has, I mean, depending on the size of your company, even if you are as small as, say, 100 people, you will find that many of the employees do not really get a chance to speak to the CXO on everyday basis. And if you have thousands of employees, or in like some of our customers, hundreds of thousands of employees, your CXO, your MD, they are just on a website for you. You probably you've said hello in a on the hall, but never actually met them. And we've seen this use case in the employee engagement. So one big use case has been where large employee engagement events have happened, and we've seen that they've been using the CXO to hold roundtables, and having prior scheduled or even walk-ins. So the fact that you cannot, trying to replicate the real office scenario where you can walk in and meet somebody, I think that's the situation you're trying to replicate here. And it's been amazing how that's happened. And then also, some of the subject matter experts. So even in like a commercial event, let's say you have someone who's known for solar power, or you have somebody who's a guru in something. When they host a roundtable, I mean, we have this feature called spectate, right? So if the roundtable is full, and you can specify whether it's 4 people or 6 people, the others just go on the spectate mode. And it's a huge, I mean, people are just waiting in line, not just to listen, because you can always listen in a panel session like this, but they want really to do a one-to-one conversation, not a Q&A, but a conversation with that expert. And it's really valuable. Just imagine an intern, a designer, or entry-level programmer, or an entry-level accountant, working in a large, say, Fortune 2000 company, and he has the ability to talk to the president of his company, even if it's for 5 minutes. It's huge for them. So we've been, again, this is a use case. So all these things like made us aware. Like, for example, this one event where you had thousands of employees. We were pretty amazed that the number of panel sessions were just about like 3 in a day. There were just 3, as far as I remember. Yeah, I was also in that event as a guest speaker, so I could see that they had a morning session, and then just a closing one, and then afternoon one. But the entire day was these genius bar sessions, was this meet the CXO sessions, and it was just amazing how it really flattened the organization. Probably deliver on the open plan. I mean, you're probably not going to have open plan offices anymore or on a reduced way. I think we're probably going to go back to the I don't know, the Mad Men style of offices, if you like. But but I think the whole concept of open plan and being able to reach out, I think that's really been delivered through this platform. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and what strikes me is I think Dipesh is having some internet issues, so we'll continue the conversation. Hello?
I had a connection
Anyway.
problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's move forward. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what strikes me here is that this is something that is actually you can't really replicate very efficiently in a live event. This is actually better than a live event because to replicate this sort of a thing, you need to like lock 6 people in a room and have a line in front of that room. Like one person leaves and then only you can enter. But this is such a much more interactive experience, and it's something that you simply can't do well in a live event. Moving on. Okay, let's talk about one-on-one from one on many to many.
Yeah. So for we have a full house, and I'm sure many of the attendees today are event planners, and especially in the US, we call it as a hosted buyer meet. I think in Singapore you probably call it a bit different, but these are essentially pre-scheduled meetings, and often these are sold as meeting packs. Like you buy into say 10 meetings, and you're assured 10 meetings with customers, or the other way around where you request meetings with exhibitors. So there are various permutation combinations, and I think that's sort of a mini room, that's sort of a mini table, if you like. And many of the events are structured like that. So again, the same technology, the same concept, but for example, so many events we've done where it's entirely the whole revenue model is based on the hosted buyer meet. Even Electrama, for example, we did Electrama, which was actually done pre-pandemic in January, and they had 300,000 attendees. So you can see the scale that this platform support, and a large part what they for example, there are different terms to use the same thing. Some people call it the reverse buyer seller meet. Some people call it with hosted buyer, but essentially it's pre-scheduled meetings between the buyer and the seller. So it's amazing how this has been done. It's also used for attendee to speaker. Some events allow attendees to have a meeting with speakers and vice versa. So you can open it up for scheduling meetings. So this is again a very popular use case for this, and of course highly monetizable as well.
Sure, that's interesting. Let's go on to the next slide, and let's talk about speed networking. What is speed networking?
So Anirban, you see that what I'm sure you remember from your young days, and I'm not saying you're not young. So, but you probably remember back in the dating scene, it's a very popular format, right? The speed dating. Now, if you see almost all kinds of enterprise software, Anirban, you can just mute a little bit. I'm getting a little bit echo from your new speakers that you had. So, no problem. Thanks for that. So, almost all kinds of software, whether it's chat or email, if you see, most of these concepts started in the consumer space and then moved on to the enterprise space. Even if you talk about social networking in the enterprise, like intranets, they started in the consumer space, and then you had people who adopted that in the company, the business, the enterprise space. I think this is a concept which also started in the consumer space. And what we are seeing is that it's a niche concept, it's a niche concept. Not every event needs that, but the events that need it, they use it to the fullest. So for example, we've seen it happening in recruiting events, career fairs, job fairs, where you walk in. So like this specific company in Australia where they actually had 10 rooms. That was also very amazing, that the potential candidates came in and they were just moved from one interviewer to the another automatically. So that was one form. The other is when you have groups of attendees or buyers. So for example, it can be used like a buyer seller meet as well. So vendors or suppliers match up with a group of potential buyers on a random basis. So they are there, a new person comes in, you introduce for 3 minutes. 3 minutes is the usual each side, so it's 6 minutes in total, and then it moves on and you get a new person to speak to. So there are so many combinations. It has been used in job situations, job fair situations. It's being used for making different groups of attendees meet. So for example, with this, the one company I mentioned before, they were trying to get more employees to know each other, and so they had essentially put the employees in country buckets. So it would only match you with somebody outside your country, and then you could, so essentially to sort of have a global. And it was amazing, because you're in the same company. You've never met, if you're in UK, you've never met somebody in New York, or the New York guys never met somebody in Singapore or wherever. And it was just absolutely amazing, that kind of feedback. So in a way, it's the same room concept. It's the concept of a round table. But the fact is, when you add the automation in terms of matching and moving them, I mean, it just blew our mind. The kind of feedback, the kind of engagement that happened. Of course, just to clarify, this is not meant for every kind of event. Some events may not find it useful, but for many events they're using it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I understand is that it's almost like mixing the Wheel of Fortune with an elevator pitch to create something really different, new, and what strikes me is that ultimately virtual tables, they're tools, and using the imagination to make the most of it. I think that's the key. So it's about how you can use the tool. Undefined? What's undefined?
Yeah, and as we coming up to the clock, and I know it's a short 30-minute one. So again, this was a learning where, so we made, for example, today we made open tables, right? And undefined is essentially the same thing as just saying hi, meeting people on, casually. For example, when you're trying to get a cup of coffee, it's the water cooler moment, right? You never planned, it was never intended, but you meet people. And I'll tell you, I'll give you this real thing. And it was actually a learning for us, because we had this one gentleman who had actually logged into 10 round tables at the same time. And we did not prevent. Even now, we can set the parameter, but we don't restrict people at the moment to jump, because we understand that for a one-day event, you don't want to, always restrict them in one box. You let them do what you want. And he was, and we actually got a support request that, hey, because other attendees were saying, how is he on every round table? How do I see him on every round table? And he was getting so much out of these connections that he was doing, that he just decided to log into 10 open round tables. And of course, we had after that, when the planner said, no, we don't want that, and then we could restrict that person. But it's absolutely amazing that, in between sessions, for example, you have one session, you have multiple tracks, then you have lunch, and then you have another session which is going to start. And that's the time you want to fill. So this is like your filler, like in the music world, you have the fillers, right? So these are the filler, but it's amazing how people just use it to the full.
All right. I think we are moving on from attendee to something a little more niche than that, which is exhibitor roundtables. So explain this slide to us.
So, expo, I mean, we have a small expo. You just find the E2M booth for today. But essentially, our events have gone from 20 booths to up to 3,000 booths. We did that earlier this year. And the booth concept, the visual concept is great. But at the end of the day, what we saw that, from a value perspective, the people were coming back and saying, okay, how does this really add more value, other than the fact that it looks like a booth? How does that really add value? So there are two things we did to make it really useful. So if you go to the next slide, Anirban, you will see that we are talking about. So there are two things. One is having a video room, a video roundtable just for that booth. So this is the same thing as walking up to a booth and starting to ask, okay, this is what I do, this is what I need, and they're responding back to that. So you don't want another situation where you simply say that, okay, email me, because that's you could do that anyways, from less restrictive things. So you should not, this actually allows you to do that, in terms of walking into the video room. And the second feature that we have is the drop a business card or exchange a business card. And by being able to exchange a business card, you share your details, but you also get back the entire collateral and the contact details for the exhibitor. So it's another use case, and we have the option of attaching this to each exhibitor.
Okay, so entertainment. How will
Finally, as we go, so as these events are trying to be as close as possible to the real world events, what we're finding is that customers they are hiring gig workers, whether it's musicians, magicians, mentalists. We have a whole list as well, for each state, and people are hiring them, and it's a good thing, because as you know, they these times have created hardships on performers as well. So we are finding that increasingly event planners are including entertainment, either live or pre-recorded. And again, what you want to do is you just don't want to watch. You need a Twitch kind of an effect, where you can chat with other people, but do a video chat more importantly. So this is again using the same room, watching the entertainment, and then being able to interact with each other, potentially making new connections. So, again, a very niche use case, but these are all use cases of having a roundtable that is actually helping the entire event industry be as close as possible, and try to save. I think we are being a little presumptuous by saying it will save, trying to save this $600 billion events industry, because nobody knows really till when. And even people who've jumped to the virtual thing, the benefits and the productivity are so big, Anirban, that they promise that they will still have it. They promise that they want to continue with that. So, we're trying to get as close as possible to the real world, and this is another use case of a roundtable helping you to do that.
And not just for the sake of entertainment, I think that people want to see an expert apply his or her craft or their craft. Because again, I'm a geek. So Jim Lee is one of my favorite artists, comic book artists, and people log into his stream for 8 hours a day just to see him draw. So if you have a professional in your event, if your event is related to something like that, and you have just a stream of an expert applying his craft, it's amazing. It creates amazing engagement. So I think that brings us to the end of this presentation, and I think we are pretty much on time. We are here at the end. So Siddharth, talk a little bit about us. You're muted.
Sorry about that. That's a habit I need to resolve. But some of our customers, there are many customers we cannot include because of NDAs. But yeah, we've been focused on attendee engagement for more than 7 years. And the key thing is we started on the virtual platform actually, way back in early 2019, where we are working on the video, trying to perfect the video, because we were already getting this, the constant requests for managing things on a hybrid model. And of course, the entire, the COVID situation actually, made us expedite and go absolutely in full scale. And right now, we are fortunate that this part of our business has been really going at a tear. I mean, the platform we've built is actually on a horizontal scaling basis, so we can handle all this load that's there every day. So thanks to cloud computing, thanks to the new architecture that's being used, the serverless architecture that's being used. So that's about it. I'll not spend too much time on the salesy bit, Anirban, but yeah, what's the next slide? Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, this is just we have this on our website. We will again skip this. It's a testimonial. We have many testimonials from different sectors of customers. But yeah, Lucretia has been very kind in giving one. So thank you. Thanks to her. And yeah, so where are we based? So yeah, it's we have 4 locations for you. New York City, right in downtown, very near to Wall Street. In UK, we've always been in the Solihull area. So that's where we are in the West Midlands at the moment. Singapore, I lived in Singapore 7 years. So very familiar, great location. We are in Tanjong Pagar for people who logged in from Singapore, and we have India being supported from Bangalore and Calcutta, both locations, and yeah. So these are the 4 locations. But what we recommend is, if you go to the next slide, I think, Anirban, is that if you actually would like a personal meeting, then what we recommend is you go to E2M Live, just use request callback, schedule a meeting, and we'll be happy to assess your event roadmap and give you a more personalized suggestion on how you could scale up your event. So with that, I think what we'll do is we invite people to join us in the roundtable. So if you go back to the other tab, you'll find on the top, you'll find roundtables. Please join us in, if you find one busy, please join the next one. You don't necessarily need to speak to us, speak to each other if you like. And we'll just be there for the next 15-20 minutes. Hang around with us, and we want to thank so many people for turning up today. Thanks so much, and we look forward to engaging with you. So thanks, Anirban, for the coordination. Thanks so much. I don't know where Dipesh went today, but I know he's a busy man. So yeah, we'll see you on the roundtable.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you guys at the roundtables, and do join us. Do join us. Let's have a chat. Let's